Recently, I saw an Instagram post that said, resting is not about taking naps, it's about doing something that helps you calm down your nervous system. Now, even though it sounds obvious, it honestly was eye-opening to me because resting and calming down is something that I always struggled with. It's nothing that came natural to me, which basically led to sleep problems, nervousness, anxiety, all that kind of stuff. So I have always had a really hard time in calming myself down. So reading this Instagram post kind of lit a light bulb inside of me. And this is what I want to share with you in this video. I want to share with you the mistakes that I made when it came to resting, the actual breakthrough that I had by reading that post, and what I do different now. Hello and welcome back. If you're new to the channel, my name is Jada. In this channel, I basically share my life lessons with you, like experiences that I went through that changed my life. So before we go into the details of the story, you're gonna listen to it and you might gonna think to yourself, well, isn't this obvious? But it wasn't obvious in that moment, because up until the moment that I had to break through, it was an unconscious pattern. So when I'm telling you of the mistakes that I made, in the moment that I was making them, I didn't know that they were mistakes. I thought I was doing the right thing. So it was only after the breakthrough and the reflection that I realized that those were actual mistakes. So let me share with you on what resting looked like before I had the breakthrough. Basically, resting to me meant anything mindfulness, taking a walk, taking a bath, meditating, doing yoga, anything that was kind of considered spiritual and elevated and kind of Zen type vibe kind of thing. So everything that didn't actually go into that category, like watching TV, being on social media, texting with a friend, anything like that, or even going out with a friend, wasn't to me considered resting or mindfulness. So looking back, the best way I can describe it to you is that on one side it had to have a purpose, like it had to have a goal, like I'd be able to meditate for 30 minutes or do yoga every day or go on a walk before going to work. So it always was related or connected to an actual outcome or purpose. But the purpose, looking back, was never actually recovering. It was doing something useful, or it had to improve me in some way. So I hope you get the vibe. It was always a kind of doing something. It was another to do on my daily schedule. It was never about the actual resting. So let me know if you can relate to that or not. So when I read this post about resting is not about taking naps, it's about helping your nervous system to wind down, I realized the following things. Number one, I was categorizing my activity of resting into good or bad. Like social media was bad, but meditation was good. The other thing is that I had an unconscious pressure of what rest had to look like. So I had unconsciously built rules around what rest had to look like. So it had to be very spiritually awakened kind of vibe. And the most important part that I realized was that I didn't plan time for, okay, I want to wind down. I was like, okay, I gotta fit into my schedule some resting time because rest is important. So it was more like coming from a mind perspective of, okay, I need this because everybody says you need to rest, so I gotta make sure that I get enough rest. So I would schedule it accordingly, like, or make sure you're going to bed at this time. But I never asked myself, what is it that I really need for me to recover, to recharge? I just made a list of things that I've learned, of people told me that I needed to do in order to rest. But I never questioned if this is actually what made me recover or rest or feel rested after doing it. So this was the big breakthrough that I had, becoming aware of the rules that I had unconsciously built up when it came to resting. So once I realized that, I was able to approach this from a different perspective. First of all, I started questioning myself and my approach and what I believe to be true. One of the questions that I started to ask myself was, what if it's not about what I do, but how I feel afterwards? Like, how do I feel after I have done that restful thing? So I started to look at the different things that I used to do in order to rest, like taking a nap, going for a walk, do meditation, whatever it was. And I asked myself, or I reflected back, did I feel rested and recovered and rejuvenated after doing it? And I had to admit that most of the times I didn't, because it was not what my nervous system needed. And I sheepishly had to admit to myself that sometimes I felt better after a half hour of social media than a 20-minute walk. And I had to be very kind with myself, because I already was judging myself, well, but social media is bad and you should better go for a walk. So I noticed how I basically judged myself for the fact that in some cases social media was more relaxing to me than going for a walk. So I kept questioning myself further, like, why does social media sometimes feel more relaxing than going for a walk? I realized that my nervous system was extremely activated. It was like up here, and I wanted to go down here. But going on a walk, it was too much of a gap, if you know what I mean. But social media was somewhere in between. So what it basically helped me, social media gave me a mental focus on where to direct my mind, my thought and all that stuff. And it kind of helped me wind down. Now, the next thing that I realized is if I stayed too much on social media, it would go up again. One of the things that I discovered was I needed an in-between step. So it was not about social media. It was about the energy that social media represented. So it wasn't from 150 down to 0. It was from 150 to 100. So basically what it helped me realize is that I needed to gradually calm down my nervous system instead of trying to switch it off in 1 second, which is basically what I was trying to do whenever I tried to meditate or do those kind of mindful things. It was way too calm for my nervous system. Like the difference in where I was and what I was aiming at, it was too big for my nervous system to process, basically. So here are my realizations and my teaching points. First of all, there's no right or wrong way of resting. The question is, do you really feel good afterwards? At the same time, I think it's important to be aware, because you can easily take a negative behavior as an excuse for, well, it helps me to calm down. The next thing was that sometimes you need to gradually calm down your nervous system because it's way overactive. Another thing that I learned in terms of how different calming your nervous system down is from person to person is consistency. Said differently, calming down your nervous system doesn't look the same every single day. Sometimes meditating or going for a walk or taking a bath is exactly what you need. Other times it's something way more active. It could be going to the gym, dancing around the house, or actually watching just a movie, but doing so consciously, where like, I'm gonna watch 1 episode, or I'm gonna scroll on social media for half an hour. Now, obviously, especially social media is a tricky one because it kind of easily gets you sucked in and you get lost in it. So I personally tend towards watching like one show or a movie because it's finished afterwards, and social media has this never-ending loop kind of thing. But again, I think you have to find what really works for you. And for me, it was really important to stop judging myself on how I calmed myself down and what calming my nervous system really looked like, and also having the focus on calming my nervous system down and not doing mindful things. So I just realized those are 2 different things as well. Also, what it taught me was like taking the negative behaviors, for example, like social media, because I'm really not a fan of scrolling on social media, because usually I don't feel good afterwards anyways, was thinking it of terms, okay, what does have the same energy as social media, like which gives me the same feeling in terms of activity. So where prior I was trying to compensate it with meditating, like, oh, I shouldn't be on social media, I should be doing a meditation, I now come from the perspective, okay, what is kind of the same energy level? For example, it could be dancing around the house or singing out loud, something that is more active in the nervous system but calms it down at the same time. So this is it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Also, I would love to know what ways you use to help you calm down your nervous system. Maybe I get some new ideas, which would be amazing. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and I see you in the next one.